Okay, so this is the job you have it. Okay. Um, let's do one thing. Let's put a nice media heading. And now that you understand the format, as considering it remains the same, no certain changes, we are going to, you have to write the answers and then we're going to review the content only, because you can go up and you can review the format and then you can write just pointers, no answers, just pointers, like how many you would need, what pointers you can add, like generally like we were doing it last time as well. Okay, in
Wait, miss.
regulation.
So I write pointers on media that I know. Oh, for the
Yeah,
question. Okay.
yeah, for the question. Yeah, there you go. So governments have no control over the media, so you just tell me if you're gonna give an intro, whatever. Okay, take your time. Or go, just go and scroll the document. Look at what we did the last time when we were discussing a 35 marker for religion, and you know what we're gonna write first. What, how are we gonna view it? What three views are we gonna use to view it? What more views are we gonna use to view it? All of it. Okay, just whatever you can think of right now, and then we're gonna check it together, add more to it, see if it's applicable, and yeah, have a good question to ourselves. Okay.
Okay, miss.
Good job.
Yes, I think that's enough.
Okay, great. So we're just gonna read it again. Okay. So wherever it says yay, that means okay, valid point, add it. Okay. Wherever it says may, that doesn't mean it's not a valid point. That just means need more evaluation. The whole set of pointers that you've given me right now do need evaluation. Okay. However, the one thing that I first of all, but I think that, like, that's not a mistake, but that's just something that I think that you should know, that first of all, I can't see what point you're writing for and what point you're writing against. I don't know that. Okay. So I don't know if you are talking about concentration or media ownership. Like, obviously as a teacher, I can go ahead and I can say that okay, this is for. Okay. But at the same time, um I'm like, the examiner does not know anything. Okay, we work with the perspective that the examiner is unknown of absolutely anything, the whole syllabus. So based on that, I still don't know what's for and what's for, against. Let's say I'm just reading the pointers. You've given me the pointers in the exam as well, and I don't know what's for and for what's against. Okay, otherwise it's perfectly fine. Another thing, I am sure you know of this. So right now I know I would ask you to write pointers, just reiterating the fact that writing pointers also means that you'd basically um, you look at you also evaluate all of these. So right, so like for example, if you're talking about concentration of ownership and you've given me this much, and you will also explain this much. So you will, because the question says evaluate this view, so every single point that you're giving, you will have to evaluate it. So so basically when you're the amazing sociological references, by the way, the two the green ones I highlighted, because those were the ones that will very directly correlate and very directly add marks to your question as well. Because a non-psychologist, okay, oh, sorry, sociologists, so they always look for common names, I would say. And b, you have explained those points as well, and also they both introduce a new theory, so they're not working on the same theory that somebody else might have introduced. They both introduced a new theory, which is why. So all of these psychological references will be embedded in your question. Okay, so let's say if I'm talking about concentration of ownership and I have given a pointer, then I will go ahead and I will talk about maybe Murdoch's points, because that also comes under concentration, or even Weinberg's time. Okay, no, never mind, that's about internet. There was another one over here. um okay, no, that was me thinking about Compain. So Compain was also the one who basically said that it's not, the concentration doesn't really depend on the global trend, but it depends on the evaluation, because media is not static; it's actually dynamic. So any sociological reference that will go here, you will embed it with the pointer. Then you've set a agenda setting, so controlling which issues come to the public attention. Again, you will have to give me for and against. So when you say this can go for against, that media does government has no control over the media, so you can talk about this with against, that no, it does have control, because there is a control in the agenda setting, controlling which issues come to the public and which issues do not come to the public. Okay, and then you can give a sociological reference, you can evaluate the point, you can build upon the point if you don't have a sociological reference. Then you're talking about allocative role, so the power to set goals of an organization and make key financial decisions rather than day-to-day control. Again, this pointer is fine, however it will still need you to evaluate it. So when I see this point, I know it falls around the fact that there's different means, there's we can talk about so much stuff over here, we can talk about censorship, funding, laws, regulation, whatnot, but it needs evaluation. What do you mean by allocative role here? Okay, uh, why I said may after catharsis point, because I still cannot relate to how it's applying to the question. So if the question is stating, it's giving you a statement from which you can agree or disagree. So if the statement is that governments have no control over the media, so if you're talking about the process of relieving tensions, okay, so are you talking and you're talking about moral panic alongside it. So are you talking about, does it have control or not? So this pointer is a little secondary, I would say. I wouldn't say it's wrong, I would say it's secondary, because it needs explanation, it needs to be placed somewhere. The other pointers, if you look at them and you read them, you can very much place them immediately, that okay, yes, they are related to the question. But when you talk about this pointer, you're like, where do I place this? Okay, so the examiner or the teacher will be like, okay, you know what, leave the explanation, but why am I placing this point here at all? So you can still talk about this in the against. Okay, but you will have to provide sufficient explanation, that when you're talking about um, you know redu- reducing moral panic, then in that regard, yes, you can. When you're talking about increasing moral panic, in that regard, it can get a little difficult to explain. Hence, you need this point is man, because a, it's secondary, b, it needs a lot of explanation, like a valid explanation. So I would just say, if it is a good point to mention. I mean, it shows that you know stuff. So I would say just go with against in this, because then it would be a little easier to explain. Talk media conglomerate, very good point. Okay, again, you will have to build upon this with the sociologist. So again, you can talk about again Murdoch here, again Compain here. When we're talking about conglomerate, you can also mention the commodified pointer from Dutton. Okay, you don't have to mention that's also was something I'm coming to. Then you have media imperialism. So Western media corporations dominate global media output. So again, this point, you can connect this point with not even allocative role, but also with media conglomerates. So, but if you want to mention it as another point, that's okay. But again, it will be counted as secondary, because it's reiterating an idea. It's not a new idea. So I wrote may not because it's a wrong point, just because it's a secondary point. It would be not introducing a new idea, but supporting another idea, or it's just a different name. That's what they're gonna think. Another thing, that this is all fine, your content's perfectly fine. Okay, but all you will need to add to it is, let's say, if you're talking about conglomeration, or you're talking about censorship, you will have to add examples. Okay, and you will also have to add um how you're talking about right here in the second point, you're talking about agenda setting. Also, your media imperialism point can also be connected to the first point. So when you're talking about agenda setting or catharsis, you will always need to mention how you can mention the social actors of media. So how is media actually affecting a person, and how, so that's something that you've given me with catharsis, right? But then how are you going to connect it to the fact that is it being controlled or not? So then you can talk about media owners, you can talk about editors, you can talk about journalists, you can talk about non-governmental bodies, okay, you can talk about audiences. So that's how you're controlling it, or you're, that's how it's not being controlled. Usually that's how you're controlling it. So that needs to be mentioned, the example needs to be mentioned as a second, to make a secondary response a primary response, and to make a primary response a premium response. So those examples, like which are concrete, all of this is abstract, this is academic. You need concrete examples, and you need to embed everything with evaluation for each point. So one of these points should be at least 5 to 6 lines longer than right now what it is, okay? That's one thing. Moving ahead, looking at the, as I said, you're when you're talking about sociological references, that's perfectly fine. It's the way you portray those references, okay? Now, because you, so when you read this whole, when even when you talk about Davis and the new economic shift, media corporations have become network of operating across national bodies, now boundaries. So you over here, you can connect this to one of these, and you can connect it to absolutely anyone, and you can give the example of the internet, how that cannot be controlled, okay? So this is what I mean. You can talk about it in media imperialism as well, if you're using it as a different pointer, okay? So you embed all of these sociological references. However, when you're talking about Dutton, so the thing is, you don't have to give every single thing, okay? So let's say if Dutton's point is very long, you only write what actually applies. So the over here, when I said that commodified was applying to us, okay, so you take that, you apply that, okay? Then you say one way from the producer to the audience, no second hand delivery. You talk about that in control, okay? And you could talk about it with for that, yes, media cannot be controlled because there's just a one way delivery. So you just use the reference that you actually require. You don't use the whole point. Even let's say Mustafa is teaching you 17 things, but will you write all of those 17 things in the exam? No, you will only write what applies. So if Dutton is having research on 700 things and has 700 theories, even if they are built up from one another, you will still just mention the one that actually matters to you. You will give a nice detailed response that within Dutton's theory, the lacking in immediacy is what applies here, or is what we see when we talk about this, or is what is evident when we talk about, when we view this. So you're just going to use what you actually require. Is that clear?
Yes, miss.
Okay, I am writing the pointers that I just told you, and then I am writing this pointer that you actually missed upon, which was the first one that you should always just think of, because start slow. Okay, so one thing that let me just change it. Okay, also these things, I'm not saying you did them wrong. You wrote, I was not expecting this good answer. I'm gonna be very honest. I was not expecting a good answer, because I was like, A, it's like a very boring chapter. B, it was like, I was like, I mean, even I don't remember that many references and stuff. So that's really, really amazing. Mashallah, mashallah. That's great. Uh
Thank you, miss. I
also,
do a lot of research because I do English as well. So even for English, I did a lot of research. So everything just connects. I have a lot
yes.
more. I just decided this would be enough because I realized I was going beyond one page. So I was like, okay, let's stop here for now. But I do have a lot more.
Okay, I think the, the thing is, when you research, you probably have English language, you're A2, right? So you're probably doing that. So yes, that requires a lot of research. So when you do a lot of research, and obviously when you have a lot of pointers, so I really get that you might have difficulty in, understanding which what to add. So the best thing to do is, practice only, like right now when you practice this question yourself. Now you know what points is secondary, so you wouldn't add them, or now you know what's actually something, what you will add primarily, okay? And you know that something else that you could have added, and that might have been a primary point here, then you will do that. So again, that can only be helped with practice. And you need to remember that the questions that they give are similar, they just paraphrase them. So there are also, chat GPT fans, they're just paraphrasing the questions. There's nothing that is changing. The content will never change. Even with psychology, let's say if they're talking about the explanations of paper in one of the questions, if they're talking about the explanations of, let's say, schizophrenia, so the content will remain the same. If they later on in paper 4 to, even if they ask you to evaluate the even if they ask you to evaluate the treatments of schizophrenia, the content will remain same. Only the thing that they ask you of is going to change. So just remember, the content is always going to stay same. If this they could have rephrased this question by saying, government have a lot of control over the media, evaluate this view. In that sense, only the for and against would change. The content still wouldn't change. So they always paraphrase. So again, your cue out of that is always just practicing. That's going to help you and go a very long way, because that's going to help you. Or like, you want information dump, you'll actually understand and only give information that is important. Looking at okay, so yeah, I'm just writing everything that further needs to be done. Otherwise, it's done in okay, that's all you need to add on to this. What you did not mention. So yeah, that's because I'll explain to you why that's a very, very, very important point. And even not just that, even if you want to talk about any agencies being the keyword here. Okay, so again, this will obviously include your national ones as well. Yeah. So, okay, when I read the question and the question is giving me a view, okay, so I'm going to copy paste that over here, the view only, and let's just choose another color over here. Let's go with purple. I want purple. Oh my god. Okay. This pointer, so I told you that, like when we were last discussing it, that one thing that we need to see what two factors are we actually exploring here. So we're exploring the government and we're exploring the media. It's not just the media that we're exploring. This is a statement that they have given us, and they have left it to us as a free will, as something a democratic government would do. That go ahead and be it for it, be against it. Okay, so then I know that I will have to give 4 pointers, and then I know I will have to give against pointers. So 4 pointers would be that yes, government has no control, and against pointer will be no, government has control. Okay, I have kept that straightforward with me, and then I give the pointers like you have, and I embed the sociological reference and everything. But one thing that I need to remember is that it is not just talking about whether media is controlled or not. It is talking about whether governments have control over media or not. So the 2 pointers that actually imply in making those that relation clear is A, media conglomerate, and B, concentration of ownership. Those are the only 2 points that are actually linking these two things. Okay, otherwise they're not wrong points. They are telling me every single thing about media and how media can be controlled or cannot be controlled. But the only 2 points that are relating media and government for me are those two. Okay, and I need a solid point that reminds the examiner that yes, I know that I have to link those two factors, that yes, I know that I'm talking about the government control, not just the general holistic control of media. The general holistic control of media would also include our parents controlling our internet, our parents taking our phones, our parents closing the internet at 11 p.m. at night. Okay, so all of those things would come under government control. Oh, sorry, holistic control. But over here, they have very clearly mentioned that we're talking about the government. So we know that yes, we are writing from that perspective. But who is going to tell the examiner that? So you need to give them a pointer like you have in those the two that you've given above. That yes, calm down. I still remember the government. I'm not totally forgotten about the government. So then what you will do is, so when for yes, for 4 pointers where you're saying that yes, government has control, you will talk about authoritarian governments. Okay. So when you talk about authoritarian governments, you talk about how what policies they use, what activities they do in order to control the exposure of media. So they have a lot of regulations, okay, and they are discussed in the syllabus. So you would not just talk about, you would talk about censorship, okay, you will talk about broadcasting, okay, because that is every single thing that they're controlling. Okay, they are controlling the whole political regime that is going on within the world. Okay, so authority governments not just control the content, but they also control who is showing it, who is seeing it. Every single thing is controlled. So and they are very, very, very successful in that. So that is one thing, that is something that you're going to speak for. Then you go ahead and when you say the government has no control, over here you talk about democratic governments who have given a clear free will that you can watch whatever you want to, you can watch it whenever you want to, you can watch it from wherever you want to. Okay, and then what you can do is, when you're talking against, okay, you can also talk about, when you're talking for, you can also talk about how you right now you've said that authoritarian governments have control. Okay, and you can talk about how democratic governments, so never mind, not over here, but when you're talking about against pointers, you can also talk about how authoritarian governments control has zero regard as well. So then you can give examples of VPN. Okay, you can basically give examples of growth. So that will include campaign, which is very important, because it's talking about how media is dynamic, not static, which is why the government cannot control it. Thus, dem- democratic governments have gained the free will. And over here, that they have nobody to blame. When we talk about democratic governments, there's nobody to blame. Okay, so um, and we can also say that even when we're talking about just democratic governments, there is still some control, because they remove ban. Like for example, when you talk about Asia, so they did not want TikTok, so they did ban it, even though yes, we are all democracies over here. Okay, so that's what that now that's something you need to keep in consideration, that it doesn't need a government. Even when it's under a democracy, they can still change it, they can still operate in such a way. So then you can write your for and against, and you can just generally also another thing. Okay, yeah, so here you can talk about also that even if it's authoritarian, however, technology or media, and then you can give the example of VPN here. So again, yeah, I think that's cryptocurrency, dark. Over here you can also talk about dark web. Okay, yeah, so do you get what I did here?
Yeah.
Yes, so this is basically my main point, because it's helping me link. Okay, it's helping me link media and government, and that is why I really need to add it, I need to shed light upon it, because That's what the examiner is looking at, because that's what the examiner is expecting of me. Basically, they're like, okay, please go ahead and tell us how these two things are connected. So your whole answer can also, your all the pointers that you've given, they can come under these arguments as well. These are that strong, these are that open arguments, not strong but open arguments. So just keep that in consideration. That's one thing. And I mean, that's pretty much it. Is this clear?
Yes, yes. I do have one question, and it goes for religion as well. It's not more the content, it's the ending of the 35 marker, like the conclusion.
Yes, true.
How
So
do I write that?
okay, let's say right now we have got all our pointers. Let's just stay black, and we're talking about our conclusion. Okay, so you will say it's very it's a reliable factor for you to add a pointer in your conclusion as well, just to support your side. So let me just see what I can add here, which isn't. Okay, so we can say in. So I've said, in considerations of the argument, I believe that media cannot be controlled under different government regimes, as individuals have the freedom of choice or an under the table way to attain accessibility for content. Whilst the government can remove and block content they believe is unfit, there is no guarantee that it won't be presented, accessed otherwise. Consequently, as a result, the government has little or no control over the media. So if I am presenting an argument, so my conclusion is me basically choosing my ground. So I have given for, I've given against. Now it's time for me to choose my ground. So the examiner is like, okay, you seem like a smart person. How about you choose for me? Okay, so you choose your ground, and then you give such a convincing argument that then it seems like, okay, you are right. Okay, so in the end, you just again like the conclusion that I just wrote. So I have chosen my ground, and I have given evidence, I have given a pointer supporting my ground. So I have said that it doesn't have control. Because why doesn't it have control? Because I'm saying that there's still always under the way methods of, or under the table ways of accessing the content, like hidden ways, or just shorter ways like VPN, whatever I've written ahead of this as well, blockchains, dark web, all of these ways are still existing. Okay, so I am just choosing one side, and I am providing evidence for it. Okay, so I am providing evidence for why I'm choosing that side. Okay, and then in the end, I just say that, I state a, like, my final wrap it up statement. Is this clear?
Yes, miss. So basically, the conclusion is based on my opinion, even though
Yeah.
like I've given both arguments throughout the whole thing.
Yes, totally.
Okay, I got it.
Perfect. So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. You can take a 4-minute breather and then we can start psychology. Is
Okay,
that
miss.
okay?
Also, I think yeah, I think in the group as well, a message came up. I think it was for you though, not for me. So I'll see
Okay,
you in.
I'll just go check. You can take a 5-minute recess till then.
Okay, thank you, miss.
Amazing.